I'm going to share with you guys tonight another way to use my stencil that I created. That's the backgrounds quad stencil that I created and that we use for the Let It Snow project. Right? So this one's been used now several times, and the Let It Snow is at the top, and then there's all these trees. There's 2 different types of trees in 3 different sizes. Okay, kind of hard to see, but you will see them. Okay, so what I shared the ad for tonight's live was this picture right here. Okay, and if you're interested in knowing how I did this, let me just quickly explain this. This is all done with sponges, with Donna's painter sponges. All right, and this is actually done on a 12 by 12, no, 10 by 10. 10 by 10 piece of the wood frames, right? So they look like this on the inside, and then they're flat on the back, right? And these are also available on Donna's DonnaDewberryDesigns.com wood site, okay? These are a great surface to paint on, and they hang nicely, and they're very durable. All right, so what I'm going to share with you tonight is how I created these snowy tree looks. And then real quick, this background was done with the painter sponge, okay? And it's skyline and white. That's the only 2 colors I used to do this whole thing in the background. Skyline with white for the whole sky, and then all white with a little bit of skyline for the shading in the snow hills here. Okay, and then extra white picked up on the round, and I just created some fluffy clouds in the background. So just a real quick background to create a winter scene, and it was a lot of fun and easy to do. Okay, but the idea here is I'm going to show you how to create these trees really easily, very easily, using my stencils. Okay, so I'm going to put out some colors. This is Thicket. You don't need a lot when you're stenciling, but we will use a little more when we're creating the snowy look part, okay? So this is Thicket, and this is Wicker White. And then I have some medium gray right there. And I'm gonna put out a little bit of burnt umber for the trunks, okay? So not much paint, and we're gonna stencil, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. So all I did with these, let's start with this one here in the background. Okay, so all I did with this was I put a smaller tree back there, and then I got larger trees in the foreground, in the front. So let's start with, we'll use this design right here, this one right here, and I'm going to put it coming down the hill slightly in the background right there. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of set it where I want it to be, and then I'm going to take this is a spouncer. And these are sold by Plaid, so they're available on onestroke.com. This is an 1 1/4 spouncer, works really great for this size stencil size. And what I'm going to do for this one is, we're going to do this for all the trees. You're just getting them in the shape that you want them. The intent of this stencil was not to create trees that were painterly and finished once you were done. It was meant to create the shape of a tree so that you didn't have to worry about the shape. Okay, that's one of the things that I've seen a lot of people struggle with, and I thought a stencil would be a really good idea because it helps you create that kind of balanced look for a tree. And we're going to have more of these coming out with different types of trees, but balanced look for evergreens. This is an evergreen, and this is a cedar. Okay, so 3 different shapes or sizes of cedar and 3 different sizes of evergreen. So you're just getting the shape, and then we use our magical 1-stroke technique to create the rest of the look. So let's come in here right now. I'm going to get just a little bit of white on my spouncer. And what you do is you get a little bit of white, and then you push really hard and make circles in a clean spot on your plate. Get a little bit more. The idea with stencils, you don't need a lot of paint for the stencil to show against the background. Okay, what you need is contrast. Okay, contrast in color. So I've got enough white on here to create the shape that I want. And what I'm going to do is just line up my stencil. Now I'm going to actually, let's do this also. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of gray. See, I didn't even need to put this much out. It's more than I needed. Tiny bit of gray, and I'm going to work that in there on that side. Now, very little paint. It's pushed all the way into the spouncer, but If you want to make sure that it's enough and not too much, then you take your paper towel and you're going to tap off so you don't have too much excess paint. Because what happens is if you apply too much paint into the spouncer, when you go to put it on the stencil, it's going to bleed underneath, and we don't want that because that makes for ugly stencils. All right, so let's line up this tree where we want it. I'm going to put it right here at the top of my hill. And then so let's come down a little bit closer. And my shaded side is going to be this gray side. The shaded right side is going to be my shaded side. So that's the side I'm going to pounce the gray on, okay? So I'm just going to pounce up and down around my stencil, getting the trunk and everything, okay? So you're tapping with firmness, but not too hard. I don't make circles with this one because there's just too much detail in here, and it'll get underneath and bend some of the stencil. All right, so that's all we needed. And then when you lift it away, you've got a nicely formed stencil with all the shapes and things inside. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for the next ones, but we're going to use some green instead of gray. So I'm going to wipe off on my paper towel this gray, and I'm going to now come to the green and white. So a little bit of this thicket, work that into my spouncer, a little bit of white, see, just barely any, okay, work that in, a little more green, a little more green, okay, work it in. And then again, before I start using it, see, I have a little bit too much, so I want to tap some of that off of there, okay. Never put it in water, never have it damp before you start doing the stenciling. Okay, so let's do this next size tree. We're going to come forward with, let's put an evergreen up here. So right there on the top of this hill. All right, and I'm just eyeballing this. All right, so right there, excuse me. And we're going to just tap. A little bit of noise there, sorry. Let's get a little more color on here. You can sweep in from the outside edges. You just don't want to make circles with all these points along here, okay? So now when I lift that up, you've got this nice shape outline of the tree. So remember, I said I'm not going for a complete finished tree with this. I'm going for a shape that I can then work with and have it look the way I want it to look, okay? Let's do one more with a little more green. We're coming forward, so things are going to be a little more vibrant. A little more green, and I'm working that into, so this is the color I have. I'm going to tap it off again on my paper towel, and I'm going to come right down here. This is going to be off the bottom. All right, let's put it, actually, let's go with a little bit smaller one. So let's come right in here. There we go. All right, so we're going to do this guy right in here in the middle. And this one's going to be right in front, so the trunk is showing, okay, is showing. All right, so make straight. I'm just eyeballing it, and then I'm pouncing. Okay, I'm just holding it with my fingers. If you want to, you can tape it down. Either way is fine. Okay, and there we go. So now I've got a nice tree shape for this size. So this is this same tree as this one over here. It's just a little bit different size. So now I'm done with this bouncer. I'm going to go ahead and put it in my water. And now I'm going to work with my brushes. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is get my trunks in place. All right, so I'm going to take a 6 flat, and I'm just going to pick up some burnt umber. Not much of these trunks is going to be showing, and it really doesn't matter if they're shaded and highlighted or not, but you can add a little bit of white to it if you want to. For the front ones, the back ones are definitely going to be too far away to even notice. Okay, so let's do this one right here. I'm just going to start where my trunk is. All right, and I'm going to stroke up right straight up to the top. Okay, right up the middle. All right, and then maybe you might have a few branches that come out right? I'm not shaking, I'm actually making my brush shake on purpose, just so you guys know. Right, maybe a few branches come down. So I'm just kind of tapping my chisel edge up here in a few spots, okay? All right, more burnt umber. And we're gonna come over here to this one now. And I'm gonna, on my chisel edge, just push and lift. And then let me get a little more. I'm not loading my brush very well. Okay, so then I'm coming straight up the center, right up into this center trunk line that I left in the top of the tree. Okay, so it's just a narrowing line from wide to skinny up to the top. All right, now more burnt umber, and I'm going to come over here now and side load just a little bit of white. All right, so right down here, I'm going to keep my white to the right, okay? And let me get a little more brown. All right. And then I'm going to keep pulling the brown down in the center, and then we'll go up to the top, just like that, okay? All right, so now I'm gonna, just like I did with the other one, I'm gonna put a few branches in here. Some of them are gonna show, some are not, but you just don't know yet, okay? You'll notice I'm not being real picky about how I'm adding these branches in, because the center part of the trunk I'm definitely gonna be covering for the most part, at least where the branches come out. Okay, there we go. All right, so we've got some branching in there and we're ready to go. So I'm going to put that, or clean that brush actually. And we're going to work with the smaller brush back here on this one, and then we'll get to the bigger brushes for these other two. So first thing I want to do is pick up on this 6 flat. This is a clean 6 flat, and I'm going to get gray. This is medium gray, and a little bit of white, and work that into my brush. Okay, so it's a lighter gray. You could also just use steel gray, that would be fine too. All right, so on this, I'm going to take my brush, first of all, and you can smash it here like that. So let's turn this sideways. And I'm going to come right out here and tap back and forth. Let's get a little more gray. There's gray in the background, which is going to help me. A little more white, I should say, not a little more gray. There we go. Okay. So I'm following that shape that my stencil helped me with, but now I'm actually adding some color and texture over the top, okay? So that's what that side is, which is in shadow. Now the rest of it is going to be more white. This is going to be a frosty tree where it's all white, all right? But on one side it's going to be darker, and the other side it's going to be lighter. And you're coming across that trunk a little bit at a time, leaving some of it showing. This is mostly white on my brush, and I'm just tapping into those areas where the stencil made a branch for me, okay? So see how that side of the tree is mostly white, and now you can bring a little bit of white over across the middle, all right? But keep most of it gray on the right side, and that'll help create shadow so that the white really stands out, okay? So that's a frosty tree right back in there. Now, the last thing I did was I came right up in here with some white and just kind of buried that trunk in the snow, okay? And you can even tap up a little bit on either side if you want to kind of give it a little mounding right there. Okay, so now let's get to a bigger brush. I'm going to go to my 12 flat. All right, and we're going to work these with white and green. So let's work the one in the back. We're coming forward. All right, so I'm going to get all white on my 12 flat. And then I'm going to come side load some of the thicket. That is thicket, right? Yeah, okay. So the thicket's a little bit cooler color green. It lends itself more to the wintry colors than the sap green tends to be more of a summery, brighter. Okay. All right, so let's come up here and we're going to tap on our chisel edge like that. Let me come down a little bit closer. Okay. So whites to the outside, all right, and then you're going to come out to these branches here and then down the middle. All right, these branches here and these branches here. You see how I'm taking the top of my brush and going out to the tip of the branch and then coming back. Okay. And then I'm tapping a little bit over the trunk of the tree. Right, out to this side, out to that side on each of these branches. And then occasionally tapping straight up in the middle, because you're going to have, right, it's not a flat tree. These branches go out to the sides. They also come towards you. All right, so you want a few spots where it looks like the branch is coming towards you. Okay, so then working our way down. So you guys can do this. This is just stenciling and tapping, right? See how easy this stencil makes this happen? If you don't have the stencil, I would really encourage you to get it, because it's going to make your trees that much better. And I've got more coming. Don and I sat and brainstormed a bunch more stencils for both of us that I'll be creating. So look for those coming in 2023. Can't believe it's almost here already. Okay. A little heavier tap down here at the bottom will give you a little bit wider position of the stroke. Okay, so see how that's coming together and it's looking pretty natural, and it's not too wide at the bottom, and it's not angled in odd angles, and you know what I'm saying? Okay, so let's finish up here. We'll add some little taps down front, little taps in there, and see how simple that was? Just took a little time, and how pretty that is. I'm glad you guys like it. So if you have the stencils, let me know what you think of them. You guys are saying some pretty great things, so it looks like you're enjoying them. All right, so now, and if you don't have the stencils, they're on my website. They're only $12.95. Okay, and they're immediately available to ship. So, okay, so now what we want to do is let's work on this one. We're going to do a little bit differently. We're going to kind of do a slip slap sort of look with this one down here. Okay, so let's finish this up. I'm going to take the back corner of my brush that's green. Okay, and we're just going to tap into some of these areas, leaving some of the branching and trunks. Let me get a little bit darker green. There we go. Ooh, that's very dark green. Go across the front in some places, especially where the branches join, okay? And then try to stay low so that the lighter color can go on top and sit above the darker green. So it looks like snow sitting on a green branch, okay? All right, so we're gonna come right through here, just taking the corner of my brush. And if you struggle with this size brush, then switch to something smaller. Okay, so see how I'm just tapping in that green here and there with the corner of my brush, okay? And then these are just little broken branches down here. Let me get a little bit darker back up in there. Okay, so now we're going to take the opposite corner, which has white on it, all right? And we're going to very lightly tap. See that? Let me blend that a little bit better on my brush because I don't want it quite so white. There we go. And you're going to do this primarily on top of the green. So orient your brush the way you need to tap that corner. The white's going to blend a little bit with the green as it dries, so it won't look quite as stark as when you first put it on there, okay? Still following the shape that my stencil created, in case you're wondering. I'm following these kind of little branches that tap out here. Let me get a little more of the green in there so that white shows up. There we go. Okay. So we'll come down. Notice that the corner of my brush leaves a little triangle, so that's the shape I'm going for. Come across the trunk from time to time. And leave some of the branches showing. So you see how you can still see some of that brown in there? I don't know if that's showing up on the camera very well or not, but there we go. Okay, so that's how you can get some evergreens. I showed you back in August how to do it with fall colors. So if you missed that, go back and watch that live. I'll be putting it up on my YouTube channel too, so you can watch it from there. All right. All my website, my Facebook page, my YouTube channel is all under the name Michelle My Belle Designs. It's a song my daddy used to sing to me when I was a little girl. I think it was the Andy Williams version, not the Beatles version. My dad was not a Beatles fan. He was before or past his time. He liked music. He was the 60s, but he liked the music from the 40s and 30s. He liked big band music and a crooner music and Frank Sinatra and all those guys. So anyway, there we go. So how fun is that? And how easy it was to do, just tapping the corner of my brush. Alrighty. Oh, and then let me real quick finish up this one tree, or both of these actually. Let's take some white and we can tap in some snow at the base of that trunk. See that? And down here. You just kind of tap it in and then scoot it away up and around both sides. And look, you've got a really pretty, this would make a great project. So this is the stencil. It's been used in several projects now, so you can see how it's used. $12.95 on my website, and we've got some really pretty snowy trees. Okay,